Good evening, everybody, particularly Vanitha Datla and Ravi Shankar. It's a great day for all manufacturing, all ladies league manufacturing. Um, it looks like, it just happened yesterday when we inaugurated the forum on 15th May. And as of now, like in about 5 weeks, we have done about 4 programs. And we've been very busy in the last 1 month, and we did not allow things like corona or any of those things to come in the way of our energy and what we would like to do for the women around this world. And also we wanted to get the best of the leaders to be part of this sector and to share their views. And in that way, I think today is a very special day for us because we have two eminent people, two eminent leaders who have been there, done that, and who have really created a case for change, a case for transformation in the have been part of. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation between, the fireside chat between Vanitha, which will be very ably, I'm sure, moderated by Ravi. And I would like to take a few minutes to introduce the lady there, the fireside chat with Vanitha. So I would like to it's a great honor to introduce Vanitha. Vanitha, I really had a problem to, make it more concise than this because it's such a beautiful CV. I really didn't know where to cut short because everything felt important for me. So maybe I'll spend a couple of minutes extra in talking about some of your very, pioneering achievements in your own ways that you've done, apart from being a leader in the manufacturing sector. So, Vanitha Datla for you, ladies and gentlemen there. So, Vanitha is a vice chairperson and managing director of Elico Limited, and she's also the managing director of Elico Healthcare Services Limited. Elico is a pioneer in analytical instruments industry, and it's an expert. It has expertise in innovating to connect science with labs. Over the last 60 years, it has established market leadership in the domains of electrochemistry, chromatography, and spectroscopy. So Vanitha is a chartered financial analyst from the ICFAI Hyderabad. She is a postgraduate diploma in business administration from the prestigious IBS Hyderabad. And she has also completed her Bachelor of Arts at the St. Francis College for Women, Hyderabad. And she has several awards conferred on her already. Just to mention a few, due to the paucity of time here, she received awards like Outstanding Women Award by the Nizam Club Hyderabad, Pride of AP Award by Shiva Swachananda Seva Samastha West Godavari District, Mahila Ratna Award by Sri Kala Sudha Telugu Association Chennai, and also she received the Business Achiever Award for Excellence by Andhra Chamber of Commerce Chennai. So there are several other things which are so interesting about Vanitha, which I thought I should talk about in this forum. Vanitha is very passionate about women empowerment, and she contributes positively to women's issues. Apart from her professional career, she has keen networking skills, which has helped her to be elected in industry associations. She served on various panels in CIA at the state, regional, and national levels over the last decade and continues to do so. The next part is so interesting about Vanitha, and when you see her, you will know why she looks like that, as young and as charming as ever. She's an avid fitness person. She has participated in a number of 100, 150, and 200 kilometers bicycle events and has conquered a couple of full marathons, many half marathons, and a 50-kilometer ultra walkathon. Vanita, I'm so impressed. She has completed many endurance and duathlon events and earned herself the tag of a dual athlete. I think you should talk about it during the course of your conversation, Vanita, because many things sounds very foreign to me. She is a trekking and adventure sports enthusiast, and she has, led her, her passion has led her to visit the Everest Base Camp in Nepal, Mount Kailash near Mansarovar, Tibet, and Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, Africa, zipline in Alaska. My God, it just goes on and on, and then skydive in South California. Amazing. She has learned to play the veena, piano, and classical Carnatic vocals at an early age, and has also recently dabbled in Vedic chanting. Additionally, she enjoys music, listening to music, reading, spending time with her family, and writing articles about her travel exploits. But traveling remains her true passion, and she has traveled around the globe extensively to more than 50 countries. Vanitha, you are a truly amazing leader, and we have the honor of having you as part of our fireside chat. And welcome, Vanitha, and thank you very much for being part of this for of the forum, All Ladies League Manufacturing. And we have an equally interesting personality who's going to be today's moderator. And he has very humbly cut short, and I'm sure he's just given a glimpse of what he is. There's a lot more to Mr. Ravi Shankar. So Ravi Shankar is a business transformation leader. He has led MNCs from entry to scale across fintech, Forbes, it's a Forbes SP group, consumer electronics, which is Toshiba, LG, Westinghouse, office automation products with Xerox and Canon, and amongst the others. As group CEO, he led the family office restructuring and succession planning for a USD 2 billion conglomerate. He co-founded India's first co-living company, Woodstock Ambience 2000 in 2007. He co-founded a financial tech venture, the Owners Payments. He is, apart from that, he is a thorough business mentor. He is an avid cricket and football follower, and he is a travel and ghazal fanatic. So we have yet another very interesting leader who's going to be hosting Vanitha in this conversation, in this fireside chat. And we can't wait to listen to the two of you. And just, I would take another 2 more minutes to talk about All Ladies League and what we attempt to do and what this fireside, how this fireside chat fits into the larger fabric of our objectives. So All Ladies League is, the strategy has a three-pronged level of, we have taken that up. And the three-pronged lies across learning, mentoring, and networking. So whatever we do, this is for women who belong to the manufacturing sector. We have a very keen interest in promoting women in the blue collar segment of this industry, and we would like to, kind of align our efforts along these three pronged measures. And with the COVID lockdown, we have not been able to go and do this face to face with the many industries which have already shown a lot of interest. Companies like Bosch, companies like Stats and Rubber Products, and one of the previous groups of companies. Many of them have shown a lot of interest. So we would be doing this kind of chats and creating a lot of awareness for women. We'll be introducing many leaders and helping women to network across and also get mentored virtually in this virtual space. So when the COVID lockdown is out, we will also be there in the shop floor, doing all that we can to help women to grow in their own careers. So with that, thank you for the time, and over to Ravi. And Ravi, all yours, and we're really waiting to we're looking forward to this conversation, Ravi. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajni, and a very good evening. Hello to everybody. Namaste, Shalom, Shabakher. It's my pleasure, and it's an honor to be part of this forum of All Ladies League. Manufacturing is something which India has been good at, and the journey now, for various global reasons, is to move from good to great. And if we have to do anything great, we have to be inclusive. And inclusive as a word can mean many things, but at the fundamental level, it means all of us, devoid of gender, together. And if we know whether it is the history of India or globally. Uh, all of us have partners or better halves, but wherever it is the women who have led from the front, those societies have always developed faster, most equitably, and have made their space under the sun for long times to come. I am in that lovely space today of being part of all, where we have a very eminent person sitting across digitally from me, Vanitha Datla, whom we have all heard. So let's go quickly across to her. This lady and many hats, one person. So let's hear first about the many hats, and then we will learn more about this person. So I'm kicking it off with this element of creating workspace inclusiveness with Vanitha Datla. Here you go, Vanitha. The space is all yours.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, first of all, Rajini, for inviting me to this wonderful fireside chat with being hosted by Mr. Ravi. And it really is very amazing now to see that a lot more women are interested to come up and explore their potential and also move up the ladder to achieve better roles in whether it's in society, whether it's in corporate, whether it's in the community, whether it's within the family itself. So I'm really happy to be at this position today, to be able to mentor, to be able to help people all around me, especially women, to explore their full potential. So yes, Ravi, you were talking about multiple hats. So well, the first hat that I wore was maybe as a daughter growing up in a business family. But unfortunately, this is almost 3 decades back, the meaning of empowerment in the family meant that no, allowing women to actually go and get an education. So that was the level of empowerment that I as a youngster got. Unfortunately, not in the area that I actually loved. I actually wanted to emulate my father, as he was a doctor, and I wanted to get into medicine, but unfortunately, I couldn't get there. But subsequently, I did think of at least getting a career, and looked at my grandfather, who was actually running a lot of companies. Am I audible?
I think we lost you. I lost you in the middle, but
Okay, okay.
I think you are on the flow. I
Oh.
don't know about.
Can somebody from the back end say if we are both on live, or
I
yeah.
think
So we are audible. I just get the confirmation that we are audible. So yes, as I said, the multiple hats started off from a daughter in a business family, growing up. I mean, as a granddaughter in a business family, and then trying to get into to the role of a wife, and then a mother, and now presently as a grandmother. And all the while not shirking my responsibilities on the family front, I always had this dream of trying to do something meaningful with my life. And while growing up, medicine was one of the areas that really attracted me, since I'd seen it from my childhood, my father being a doctor. Since that did not open the doors for me, destiny couldn't open that door for me. I looked at trying to get some space in the business that my grandfather was running. So after my marriage and after my children, I actually had a short stint in the US along with my husband. But after coming back, I did approach my grandfather, who was actually busy grooming his grandsons to take over him in the industry, whether he could actually look for some sort of a role for me. And that was the beginning of my career. And it's almost now close to 3 decades, and I'm sure he would never have imagined that I had continued so long. He would have probably thought that no, she has maybe this sort of flavor of that month, and she wanted to just come and work, so let me just give her an opportunity. Maybe 3 months, 6 months, or maybe 1 year down the line, life will catch on, and then she might want to quit. So I think I should just give her that opportunity. But I guess the determination, the grit, that I just wanted to continue at the workspace. did bring me back to all these 3 decades. So here I am, and of course, down along the way, I had many roles to play at both at the corporate level as well as in the social level, where I could actually contribute my experience to society.
Brilliant. If you notice, I know a little bit about cricket. So this is really classic opening batting by Vanitha. Very clear. But my takeaway on this is only three: passion and ambition does not stop at the first obstacle. So here was a person who's gone, uh, got herself into adulthood, married, went out abroad, came back to India, and had the ambition, the passion, and more importantly, the conviction in oneself that I want to do this. And she was not afraid of approaching anybody. And grandfathers are awfully unapproachable people when we talk 3 decades back. And for people who understand Indian society and South Indian society, it takes a lot of courage to go up and stand in front of them and say, I want this. I don't know whether she stomped her left leg or anything, but the journey, therefore, came with an ability to convince people that I want to do something, or I am something. We'll take this journey across as she gets into the corporate world, and let's hear the first few years of what life was in a corporate entity. Vanitha.
So here I should again bring to the notice of everybody that though I asked my grandfather for a role in, he had a number of companies. He had a very big group of companies, and basically all in the core sector. It was cement, it was refractories, it was sanitary ware. So he somehow did not see me playing a role in any of those companies. He actually made me the executive director in the finance company. That was mostly, it acted as a holding company for the other group companies. Very little action, very little activity in that holding company. So basically, I felt, now looking back, it might have been like, it's just a makeshift arrangement that, yes, the granddaughter asked something. So instead of saying no, and I just go put her in some place where she thinks that, she will be able to, make use of herself there. At that point of time, I should also mention that I actually, when I got married, I had actually discontinued my studies. I moved to the US, though I did have a small foray into the university there along with my husband. I actually never came back with a graduate degree. And after coming back to India, I did go back and get the balance of my degree. I also sat and wrote the entrance for the ICFI Business School, because I always thought that, no, unless one is qualified, it really doesn't make sense, especially in a family-run business. The people around would always say, yes, she's the chairman's granddaughter, and that's the reason she's been given that position. So I felt that I needed to get and earn that respect from my colleagues, from the people that I work with. So I actually went back, I studied, I got that degree while actually working part-time with my grandfather. So yes, initial days were a little difficult. There was a lot of learning to do, and very, very few women in the workplace. So there was that inhibition to learn stuff from my colleagues who were all men. But I think they did give me the comfort, and they were all kind enough to actually mentor me and to guide me throughout the way.
Let me bring a little bit of reality check here. You have said all nice things about all the men in your lives. There must be an exception somewhere. Why don't you let us into that one little exception secret?
Well, a number of exceptions. Yes, there were very many times where I could not see eye to eye with my seniors. Because I worked with my grandfather, I worked with my brother, I now work with my husband. So there is always that issue of not seeing eye to eye on many of the issues. But then the underlying fact is, then how do you negotiate and how do you come out with a win-win situation? So I think I found myself trying to be a little bit more adjustable. I've compromised a lot, and I think that actually helped me to traverse the entire almost 3 decades that I have now. If I was probably short-tempered, if I put my foot down, if I was rigid, probably I would not have continued so far. So there is a lot of give and take, and I think I've done an equal give and I've taken equally too. So.
Viewers, thank you, Vanitha. Viewers across the world, this is a small take that I want to give. We started in a very jocular way to talk about exceptions to all men being nice, etc. But the underlying message I hear Vanitha say is that whether we are men or women, we need to coexist. And in a coexistence, the first thing is to understand the other person or persons and to work together. To give way is not a lose-lose effort. So we are talking about Vanitha here who knows how to lose a battle and win a war. So this is about staying long, staying strong. Thank you, Vanitha. That's a great takeaway, and I'm sure people would love to play this portion again and again. Now, viewers, again, you might think, what is this raconteur happening between two people and two lives? How are we involved? The way we are trying to involve you is to set you up for the final 2 overs of the T20. And therefore, the story will continue with Vanitha having moved from where she started into her organization to taking this organization across the continents. As we know, they operate in UK, in the Middle East, in US markets, whether it is the healthcare side of business or their core Elico business on analytical instruments. But I am going to throw something here which doesn't mean anything at all to me. And to many of us, this could be coming strong, but that is to set the base for something. pH meter, spectrophotometry, flame photometry. Words which we normally do not get to hear anywhere. Definitely not on WhatsApp University, right? So what is all this, Vanitha? And what is this mecophotronics? I have heard mechatronics, electronics, mecophotronics. So here is a lady who will now tell us these technicalities about unpronounceable English.
Yeah, Ravi, yeah, that was mecoptronics and not mecophototronics. But yeah, so when I actually joined my husband in the analytical instrumentation field, and believe me, I'm not a technical person, I'm a pure finance background with management expertise. But even in my earlier organizations, when I worked with my brother in the cement industry, I had to do a lot of learning on the subject, especially to understand the nitty-gritties, the nuances, so that whenever I had to speak publicly about my company, I would at least know what I was talking about. So the same thing holds true for the current company that I am the managing director of, Elico Limited. It is a pioneer in the analytical instrumentation field. Now, for those people who have been through engineering or through a pharmacy college, they would have a lot of lab work, and in labs, they must have gone through our instruments, tested on our instruments. So basically, our instruments, whether it is in flame photometry, whether it is in spectroscopy, whether it is in chromatography, these are all techniques where an analysis of a product can be done. Basically, one would like to understand the molecular and the atomic composition of whatever product it is that you're testing. Today, we are a very dominant force in the soil testing market as well as in the water quality testing market. So definitely, you would find our instruments in those markets. And yes, for the layman, it is unpronounceable names. It is difficult to understand, but I'm sure nothing is rocket science as long as you have the intention to learn, you have an open mind to learn, and you're willing to put in some effort and grab the subject and delve deep into it to understand the nuances. There have been a lot of times where I've sat with my engineers and I've asked them questions where for a person who is within the subject itself, no, an outsider or a layman asking them certain questions makes them look at the subject totally differently. So I think I bring about that aspect to any of the discussions I have with my own teams.
Thank you, Vanitha. Viewers, if you are comfortable with what Vanitha has spoken so far about herself, we take her into the realms of public space, into the realms of inclusivity, of what she has done in the past 30 odd years. Herself as an example, you saw, now in a broader perspective about women in the workplace, women in manufacturing in the workplace, and just to make it a bit tighter, we talk with relevance to India. Vanitha, can you share with us your first experience of what you wanted to do and the resistance you might have faced or the support you got from the rest of the environment when you moved towards building a stronger platform for women in the workforce?
So while I was working with my brother in the cement industry, most of you would understand that the cement industry is dominated by men, and especially at the plant. While in the head office, in the administrative side, you would have women, but we had very few women. I think apart from me, there was just one lady in the accounting department. But at the plant, which is actually far off from the city, it is totally male dominated. It is totally dominated by blue collar workers, also by contract laborers who really don't understand women coming into their midst and talking business to them. So especially this is about 2 decades back, since I'm talking about my experience in the cement industry. Very, very few women would actually be visiting the plant site, would be visiting the kiln, would be talking to the operators there, would be visiting the mining area, would be talking to the persons who are in charge of the dynamite or blasting operations and all that. So there was a little discomfort I would sense among these people. But I had a mentor there, a senior director who I would accompany, and under his shadow I sort of learnt the subject, and I used to go to the plant almost once in a month or twice in a month to understand the costing effects and bring the costing aspects to them. Now, once I moved to my own company, Elico is a much more progressive company in terms of gender inclusion. We have women in almost all the departments, right from the shop floor, from the R&D department, to marketing, to servicing, to finance, to HR. So here it was much more easier for me, and by then I had grown in age. So I think that comfort level also came from me, because see, when I started out my career, I had people all older to me. And today I'm at a stage where most of the people, at least 90% of them, are younger to me. So I can actually, control most of the issues that, that do come across, that I do come across. So it is difficult. I remember in the earlier days of my time with the cement company, I used to handle the finance, and I would actually handle the banking relationship. And when we used to be called by the bankers for customer meetings. These meetings used to be held in the evenings at some star hotel, and where they would actually wine and dine all their privileged customers. And when I used to land up there to represent my own company, it was all men, and somehow the inhibitions were always very, very difficult to overcome. Yet I always made it a point to go visit and show my face, mark my attendance, talk to a few people, talk to the banking team, and make my presence felt, talk to a few more people, and then come back. But all that changed once economy started improving, more women started coming to the workspace, and especially when I joined the Confederation of Indian Industry. Even in the CII early days, there were very, very few women at attending seminars or conferences or networking events. But over the period of time, more and more women started coming. So that comfort level started coming in. And of course, the more you started networking with male peers, the comfort level for them also, because they then started accepting that I'm here to stay. And so that comfort started improving, and I was able to then start developing good professional relationships with a lot of people.
I want to bring a slightly sensitive element into this relationship part of having male peers to accept you. Uh, so, like you said, it took some time for them to get comfortable that you're here to stay. Why is it that you felt you had to make them understand who you are, as opposed to, and I know I am asking you a very base question, it can be answered, uh, why silly? That's the way you guys are made of, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this need. Like you said, there is a time when trying to interface with vendors like bankers, etc., does not take into consideration the sensibilities of a woman in the workplace or in the profession who may not want to participate in this great late evening bonhami, may not. And you said that it has improved over time, that the sensitivities are taken care of. But why is it that, do you believe that there still exists a situation where the first cut understanding of anything which has got women in the workforce or in the client side or across the table is not very comfortable or well understood? Do you think such a situation exists in India, even now, today?
It does, because unfortunately we still have a huge chunk of population that is still beset by the old mindset. There's still a lot of men that I also deal with have not seen women who are the supposed to be empowered or supposed to be talking business on par with the male counterparts. So even today, when I get called to a lot of events, I mean, pre-COVID, when no, there were the physical events happening, and I get called as a speaker to many events, where my co-speakers ask me, even as far as last February when I was in Vizag for a program, there was this co-speaker who comes up to me and says, "Madam, do you go to office daily basis?" So I wanted to respond to him saying that only when I find time from my kitty parties do I go to office. But then what the hell? I mean, why am I called to an event to speak on leadership or to speak on strategy or to speak on some subject if I'm not at office, if I'm not actually put in an equal amount of time at the workplace like he has? Because for the very fact that he has been also called for that event, and even I have been called, must mean that I have actually climbed the ladder along with him. There are umpteen occasions where I can tell you that on many forums, people sort of look down upon you, thinking that yes, because you're part of the family, you've come to where you are, or maybe merit has no role played in the way that you have shaped up into your career. There was this instant where at one of the CII meetings that I was actually attending, and I was representing the CII as a chairperson of Telangana for an event that was held by a public forum. So there was this person who actually saw me there and listened to me, and then he had the gall to write to me a mail saying that, "Madam, I did see you at this particular event, and I was impressed by the way you spoke and with the clarity of content that you brought, which I actually always thought that you've become the chairperson because you're so-and-so and you're related to so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. So because now my perception of you has changed, I would like you to mentor me on certain issues." So I actually have that mail even till today. I sort of preserve that mail just to show people know what the mentality of, and this guy is a youngster. He must be in his 30s, early 30s. So I actually wrote back to him saying that, "Sir," and I did use the word "sir" because though he is younger to me, I felt that no, he should probably look at the sarcasm in which I was trying to address it. So I said, "Sir, if you felt that I've actually achieved my position because of anything apart from merit, then do you actually think I'm in a position to mentor you? So maybe you should look at some other male mentor in your forum to actually take you forward." So then he sort of realized the sarcasm that was underlying this mail, and then he wrote back saying he was sorry. I asked him to come and meet me. While he did come, the body language was still there. He sort of was very condescending. He looked at me, he looked at my office, he looked at all my accolades that I had displayed in my office space. Somehow I never felt that he actually realized that wherever I've come to this level today, that I've achieved it on my own through merit, through grit, through determination, through hard work. Well, I guess you can't please the world, so that's okay.
So that brings us to a very interesting point. This is clearly the face of things that many women would have faced or are facing. While we are talking inclusivity, so that we are not championing a cause of one over the other, we are clearly talking about inclusivity. You have spoken about the exceptions where there still is a lot of ground to be covered by men folk in their ability to intuitively see themselves as partnering women in an effort, rather than having to make the effort to show that, oh, you are welcome. So I get that point. So what is the message that you would like to give here at this stage to women as well as men? What is it that women should assert, and what is it that men should learn to be and do, not just in the presence of women, but as people who form part of half the human race? They owe it to the other half to behave and be and act and do things in a particular manner. What would you say to them?
So I think here a lot of blame should also be put on to us women, because very minute percentage of us actually come out and we actually make a name for ourselves in whatever circle, whether it's in business, corporate, society, community, politics, whatever field we take, it is the minute percentages that women actually come out, while the rest of them still don't aspire. They still don't think it's their responsibility to actually turn things around, so that if not this generation, the next generation at least will change. Today, we still have women who treat their sons differently and treat their daughters differently. We still have women who probably don't encourage women to actually aspire for themselves, or put themselves out into the economy to be an economic participant. So while a lot of men do tell me that, see, a woman's enemy is a woman itself, because starting from home, if you do not find that encouragement, if your own family, the female members of your own family treat you differently and treat the male counterparts differently, it's a very difficult uphill task for us to actually change the mindsets. But on the other side, on the flip side, I think the more women that keep coming, keep struggling, keep hanging in there for the long run, I think this is one thing that women should understand, is that we are here to run a marathon, not a sprint. While we do extremely well, especially in the Indian context, Indian women are doing extremely well on the education front. People are getting fantastic degrees, fantastic qualifications, and they do enter the workspace, but they stay there only for a very short time. As a result, today, if you look at 2020, I think there were some statistics that came out in the month of February or March. India still has a very low percentage of women at the workplace. That is because there is no aspiration among those who have actually educated, who have actually put in the effort to qualify themselves. And they find that either the complacency sets in, or because they are unable to handle the work-life balance, a lot of the domestic chores and the responsibilities of child rearing fall upon them. There is no equal contribution from their male counterparts, and that all sort of leads to, again, the women withdrawing from the workspace. And the workspace, I mean, here is in any sort of an economic activity.
Sure,
so once that happens, it becomes very difficult for us to set the platform for equality or equity for the next generation, because the battles that we are fighting this generation will continue to be fought by the next generation women, which I feel that at least the women today who are actually in a position to mend things, to change policies, to advocate for better an equitable ecosystem, we should do our level best to change the mindsets and to be a role model in our own communities so that people will start emulating us.
So at one end, you are saying women also need to take charge and
Yes.
be a bit more systematic, aggressive, and pushy.
Yes.
You are saying that goes without saying whether you are a qualified person sitting at home, or you are a housewife full time and want to be that, or you are a professional who had to take a mummy's break or a baby break and doesn't find a economic or a business infrastructure which allows you to get back to work as you would have. Uh, I get that point, and I think many viewers will want to have questions around that as we approach the 41st minute mark. So we will go on this. But the takeaway I see is women also have to take the responsibility. I
Yes.
also see you saying that society needs to change its views, and therefore today, and what you have said doesn't look like a marathon to me. It looks like an ultra to me, 79 plus. So. Why are you putting so much of onus on women to do this? What about society? Now, you as a grandmother, like you said, and I'm not going to touch upon it because I don't believe it is fully true, but nevertheless, since that is chronology at work, you have said that as a grandmother today, you see things different. What is it that you would advise to your granddaughter or grandson, for that matter, as to how he
Yes.
or she should be?
So I think the first thing that, as parents or now as grandparents, I think we should walk the talk. And I always advocate that any human being should learn life skills. So here, gender doesn't have a role to play. So a person needs to eat. So I think they should learn to cook. A person needs to drive. So it's better that they learn whatever mode of transport is available, that they learn to get a license and they learn to move around by themselves. A person needs to be educated so that they can stand on their own 2 feet. Apart from that, while these are all the life skills that one needs to understand, whether a man or a woman, there is also the softer skills that one needs to learn. Just because I'm highly qualified and I'm the top of my company or the top of whatever role I'm playing does not mean that I start showing that and I throw my weight all around. So I think the softer skills is that we understand how we negotiate, how we don't have egos, that we still have that element of humility amongst us, so that we will create a win-win situation for everybody around, because ultimately no man or no woman is an island, and we need to take family, we need to take community, we need to take people all around us, our colleagues, the people that we work with, all of us, we need to take on this journey, and on this journey called life, we need to take it forward. And if we can do that in a happy and joyous manner and make it worthwhile for everybody who's traveling along with us, I think our reason for being on this planet is actually it's sort of it's well defined.
Very self-actualization, highest form of self-actualization. To come back to ordinary mortals like us, what is that one thing that you would want to give as a message to the women watching you worldwide and to the men who also are watching you worldwide? What is that one thing to each one of
Yes.
them?
So this one thing is maybe 6 things that I can always break it up into. And actually, I learned this about 6 years ago. I actually happened to travel to Japan. And there I actually got in touch with this wonderful professor, lady professor, who actually could not achieve her level best in Japan because, as all of you know, Japan actually again has a lot of the gender related issues where women, they don't really see women in senior positions or in leadership positions. So this lady professor actually had her entire career in the US, but then she moved back post her retirement, and then she was made a professor in one of the universities in Tokyo. So she left to us with a wonderful message that I feel I've been using unconsciously throughout my life, but ever since she articulated it, I've been using it in my personal as well as my professional life, and I felt that it has improved my whether it's personal or professional life, it has improved me tremendously and sort of sculpted me into this person that I am today. So the first thing, I mean, she said that there are 6 ups to leadership, and I mean, a leadership need not just be a designation in a company or no, in a society. It can mean a leader, no, where you actually chart your own destiny. And the first up that she said was to show up. So showing up here meant, be there, be visible, be present wherever there is a necessity, wherever there is an opportunity. The second up is to speak up. And especially Indian women, we are taught to be silent. We are taught to not voice out. We are taught to be visible but not heard. But I think speaking up only will allow us to articulate our thoughts, bring about our vision, bring about our perspective, so that any discussion that takes place understands the other side of the story too. The third up is to look up. And here, looking up means, it of course brings in 2 connotations. One is to look at the entire bigger picture so that you understand how you're moving towards that. Looking up also means that look at role models wherever. It can be in your family, it can be in your company, it can be in society, it can be all across the world. By looking up at role models, what one can actually do is try to emulate some best practices. You don't have to copycat them, but try to emulate those best practices so that your personality evolves, and that should help you. The fourth up is to team up, and teaming up is extremely necessary if we want to have almost a good work-life balance, because no single person can do every role fantastically. You cannot be the fantastic mother, a fantastic wife, a fantastic daughter, and also try to be fantastic at the workplace. If you try to bring in everything, I think you'll only lead to a burnout. So build in teams, ensure if how we work at the corporate level, how we work with good teams to enable a good output. You do the same thing on the personal front with your family members, with your community, with your neighbors, so that ultimately nobody gets affected. The fifth up is to very important for women is don't give up. No matter what challenges, I will not say obstacles, because I know a woman's life has its we have something called a biological clock ticking within us. So we need to have certain life milestones at the correct stage and at the correct age. So in spite of that, I think we should not give up when opportunities, because opportunities will be dime a dozen, but there will be that many number of challenges, trying to pull us back from exploiting our full potential. So ladies, my main message from all of this is don't give up. And the final up was what I really loved. Especially, she said that a true leader never creates followers, but a true leader actually creates leaders behind them. So the last up is to lift others up. And I feel that if we have come to a certain position, we should make it our life's ambition to lift other people up, so that there are that many more people who are actually able to do much, much good to society. So those are my 6 ups. It is show up, speak up, look up, team up, don't give up, and lift others up. I think that really gives the essence of my own life. I think I've showed up at numerous instances where actually it has helped me both professionally and personally. I did speak up when necessary. I also looked up at the bigger picture that I really needed to be in the workspace, whether it was not in the medical field, then at least in the business field. I didn't give up. I definitely teamed up, whether it's at work or whether it's at the personal front. I've teamed up. I've made tons of teams to help me, to help my family whenever I was not present. Somebody did step in and look out for me. And finally, I've come to a level where I'm in a position to lift a lot of people up, and I'm very passionate about doing that. I think even Rajani spoke about that in my introduction. So I speak a lot on women's issues. I am a very passionate advocate of women empowerment. So wherever it's possible, I try to see that women are included, women are part of the discussion, women's perspective is brought to the table.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Vanitha. She is a true champ. Along with those six ups, and I fully subscribe to them. They are brilliant. I want to add one more because there is a fitness side to Vanitha and the marathon and the Everest and the Kilimanjaro. So the seventh up is do a lot of push-ups. Okay?
Yeah. So I
Great.
always believe that, a fit body leads to a fit mind. And what started off as trying to get my children into the fitness mode, I sort of, dabbled into all these things because I had a very good group of friends who also shared the same passions. And so there was a time where I couldn't even put one step in front of the other. I thought walking even a kilometer was a real achievement. But that's the reason I took up all these challenges. So one thing underlying is I always love a challenge. And if there is a challenge, I love to work towards accomplishing that challenge. So I think that's the bottom line of what Vanitha is all about.
So you said the last up was to lift up and therefore to build teams. And leadership is all about bringing in the next range of leaders or more leaders onto the table. So this teamwork, there is something which is very normal, natural, the way leaders behave, irrespective of gender. I'm talking here. But it takes a bit of hard work for men to bring in that empathy and that multi-skilling ability or multitasking ability, the ability to divorce one element of a day from the other and then focus fully on it, the way women have managed to do across times. And it's not about a Mary Bara and GE, or it's not about an Indra Nui or a Vanitha Datla that I'm talking about. You're all examples of people who the world can see and know. What about it in a general day-to-day life when we see women managing to balance so much? And what is the satisfaction level at the end of the day you get? And I'm talking to you as a representative of women who constantly do this in whatever they do in their work as a professional, as somebody who is running their own enterprise, very small outfits, because it's proven today that 99% of micro lending which goes into self-help groups are all founded and made up of women. And their ability to play a role in being possibly the main breadwinner or even to educate the next generation, which is what it happens. What happens when a woman works, earns, and provides for a family, the next generation moves up the economic and social ladder. In that context, where do you see the role that you want women to play? Like you said, they need to do ABCD things and never to give up. What more? Where is the envelope to be pushed?
Well, you rightly said, Ravi, that if a woman is educated, the old saying was that, no, you educate a man and then you educate a single person, but you educate a woman, then you educate the family. So taking that the next step further, if the man earns, he earns for his family. But if a woman earns, I think she earns for the community. Because by her going out of the house, she does hire house help or people around to actually come and help her out in household chores and things. So by doing that, she's actually giving employment opportunity to those less fortunate people. And I think if more and more women start coming out and don't look at it as an expense. I remember at one Women's Day event, I was actually talking about more women being economic participants to the nation so that the GDP actually increases. There was this lady there that said that, do you really think that I should go for this high paying job and then spend all my money on daycare and on servants and on house help and all that? So to that, I say that, yes, why not? Because when you are earning and then you are paying for further services, you are actually employing another 2 or 3 families who then become dependent on you. And the more people that actually do that, the more of these sort of smaller economic societies start opening up, and then everybody starts getting into the workspace. Everybody starts getting to be an economic participant to the nation, which will actually help the nation today. Today, if you look at our nation, I feel that we should have been the number one or the number two in the terms of the GDP ranking. We are unfortunately at number 7 or number 8, and we have far smaller countries like the ones in Europe, whether it is France or Germany, which have 1/10 of our population who are actually doing wonders. So why can't we, as a population of 1.3 billion, be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with countries like the US or China in terms of economic activity? And I'm sure that an improvement in economic activity will bring a better quality of life to everybody. Today, it is only the rich people who enjoy a better quality of life. What about the middle class, the lower middle class, or the people who are in the poorer sections of society? By being role models to them, by ensuring that we improve the quality of life for those women, who then at least the next generation would get benefited by getting educated, or by sacrificing themselves to doing some sort of a menial work and getting their children educated. It will bring them out of this poverty life cycle. While being a chairperson of CII, I had the privilege of going to Bhadrachalam, and Bhadrachalam, especially the interiors of Bhadrachalam, is very well known for being a very, very backward place, a backward district. But there was this CSR activity where a couple of companies from CII had actually helped train the young girls in those 2 or 3 villages to stand on their own 2 feet by offering tailoring skills to them and then gifting them with a sewing machine. Now,
I'm going
these
to
young
interrupt
girls.
you. I'm going to
Yeah,
interrupt you, Vanitha. Sorry, we
sure,
have
yeah,
3.5 minutes to go, and
sure.
we need some time for questions that people are sending across. They want to hear you on that. So I'm so sorry,
Sure. No problem, no problem.
but yes,
So we can open
Rajni,
up for Q&A.
yes, is that fine, Rajni?
Can you take me? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Actually, we can allow her to finish that Bhadrachalam CSR event,
Okay.
because I'm
Yeah.
interested in knowing that too.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
we could extend
You
it by
are,
another 5-10 minutes. I mean, if
see,
you,
you are beaten 2:1. Okay, we should.
So, so I know why I actually, because I really got inspired by these girls. So these girls actually were stopped from studying because their families couldn't afford to educate the girl child as well as the boy child. So the preference was given to the boy child of the family, and the girl children were actually pulled out of school and not being educated. And when we came to know of that, from CII, the CSR task force went and got them trained and gave them the sewing machines. And when I went to actually visit them for the inaugural, they actually wore salwar kameezes that was so beautifully made that you could actually find them in Fab India or any of the W stores, in any of the major super malls. And that was the level of expertise that these girls came out with. Now these girls are standing on their own 2 feet. They're earning money. They are actually paying for their brother's education, and they also are paying for their own education. Now just look at the power of these 16 and 17-year-old girls. If they can do it, why can't women, much more older, do much more than that? So that's the women power for you. So you just have to give them that little bit of support, a little bit of encouragement, and a good ecosystem, so that you can exploit the full potential of women there.
No, absolutely inspiring messages like this. It's happening all around us in India. Therefore, we cannot. I'm going to conclude this session with a we cannot. We cannot think these issues remain outside our homes, outside our environment. We must own up to things. We must own up to encourage. We must play an active part. Who is the we? The we is the men and the women together. An inclusive society only brings inclusiveness in workplace. An inclusive workplace leads to a more equitable society. And we must thank people like Vanitha for making these things happen. They are baby steps for humankind, but very big steps in the environment in which they work. So thank you. Lovely to have had this session with you, Vanitha. Lovely to see Rajni interjecting. Thank you so much for this session. And now we will leave you with the audience to ask those questions. Thank you.
Shri, would you like to put the questions up there?
So there is a comment from one Preeti Daniel who says, I had mentioned that we are here to run a marathon and not a sprint. And she says it's rightly said. So yes, I'm with you, Preeti. I think, I'm assuming you're a youngster. So I hope that you will come up to the senior most position in whatever career you are presently in, and make that value add to the next generation of women.
Well, I have one question. Now I'm no longer moderating, I'm an audience. What is the meaning of success? Is it different between men and women? How do you see it? Is there a gender thing, or do people see success differently? How do you, what do you see?
For me personally, I feel, men look at the commercial aspect of success. If they've really earned well, maybe monetarily, or a name for themselves and society. But maybe for women, success lies in the well-being of her family, in the well-being of her company, or in the well-being of the people that she can relate to. So at least that personally from me, I feel that if my family, if my company, if the people that I'm around with, if I'm able to help them out, and if they come out positively from that, then I would deem that as a success for me personally.
Perfect. So we will end on this note. There is a famous saying, couplet by Ghalib, when he was asked. Ghalib was not at all rich, he was poor, but he was in rich company. So when the other noblemen asked him, what is it? What is your wealth? He said, okay, चलो अब दोस्तों के बारे में बात करते हैं. आपके कितने दोस्त हैं? So just to make a point that you are rich not by the wealth alone, but by things like you said. So on that good note, it's been exhilarating evening, and I hope all of our viewers enjoyed this session as much as I did speaking with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ravi. I think, I have certain things to just reiterate from what Vanitha has taken us through in this last 1 hour. Vanitha, I think, if I have to give you an award right away, I would give you this award, the emotionally intelligent leader award goes to Vanitha Datla. I am
Thank
a very
you.
I'll tell you why. I have a reason for this, because I was trying to make some notes for the concluding remarks and for the valedictory note. So I was trying to note so many things, and then I said, when I looked at the notes, I felt, just this award will suffice, because, in emotional intelligence comes self-awareness. There is a social awareness. There is a motivational element. There's a huge lot of compassion and empathy. There's a lot of leadership. I think you are one person who has personified all these 5 elements of Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence. And I'm sure, and you are one of the awardees for the West Bangalore as well. And Lakshmi is doing a great work on that. So, I would, if I have to give you this, I don't have a piece of paper, but I would say this is the award for you. As you rightly said, grandfather means a lot. My grandfather meant a lot to me. What I am today, I owe to my grandfather. And that small story that you started with, this evening was very emotionally inspiring for me, because I always felt grandfathers they do great deal for their granddaughters. And he always used to tell me, you should stand on your own legs. You should be independent, and when you have to lift others up. these are the three lessons I learned from my grandfather. And I have no words to thank Ravi, because I think I was thinking, where did Ravi go all these days? When I was looking at a leader to moderate, and I'm going to have a big fight with Lakshmi for not introducing, because you did a brilliant job, Ravi, because you got the best conversation out, and you knew exactly the kind of questions and the kind of conversations that you should elicit from our great leader, Vanitha. And I think there's a whole lot of lessons, the six ups, yeah, and I'm sure, Vanitha, and this is the second time I'm listening to that six up story, because I had this great fortune of being under your leadership in CII win in India Women Network. I learned a lot from you then, and I learned a lot from you. I continue to learn a lot from you. And so when the six ups were presented again today, it was a great deal of reinforcement. Uh, Actually, I have no words to thank both of you, Ravi and Vanitha. You made a great partner in this entire fireside chat. And I think, we're going to have a part two very soon on this, because Vanitha
Thank
has a lot to offer, and we will do a part two. And thank you, everyone. And I'd like to thank my team who are backstage, Priyanka, Sri Sirsita Sri, and Preeti Daniel. They are all part of the and Our Lady Lakshmi Shankar, who has always been our guiding force, and she helps us whenever we need her. And thank you, Vanitha. Thank you, Ravi. And uh, we'll look forward to meeting you soon. Thank
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 you
you.
so
you.
much, Rajani. Thank you so much, Ravi. I think I'm really humbled with all the good words that you have for me. I really never thought I would do such a, I mean, I would ever come to this level where I have people actually talking to me and asking me for my advice or things like that. But I'm truly humbled with, all the good things that both of you have said. So thank you so much for inviting me to your fireside chat. And I hope, that we have added some value to all the listeners today.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I can
Thank you.
only second that. Thank you so much. Good evening,
Thank you.
Shabaka.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.